freedom over fame. Freedom over cycle stays the same.
Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives, and I am your host, Bruce Anthony. Thank you for listening and watching wherever you get your podcasts and video podcasts. Subscribe, share, like, comment, and rate us. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at unsolicited_perspectives. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok at unsolicited_PER. Watch us live now. Watch us live every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and YouTube. Our audience continues to grow with each and every episode, and I humbly thank you.
On today's episode, I'll be interviewing one of my oldest and dearest friends, Megan Meertens. She's a mother, special educator, and she's traveled all over the world. So we're going to get into a little bit of conversation about that. But first things first. Hey there, podcast listeners. It's Bruce Anthony here, and welcome to another episode of Unsolicited Perspectives. Today, I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind lately, the importance of staying hydrated and taking care of ourselves. Whether it's prioritizing our health and wellness, or gearing up for festival seasons, or just gearing up for whatever season or time of year, there's one brand that's been my go-to for all things hydration, Liquid IV. Speaking of health and wellness, let's dive into how Liquid IV can fuel your well-being. Imagine starting your day off right, feeling refreshed and energized. Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier is the missing piece in your daily routine. With just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins and 2 times faster hydration than water alone. It's perfect for those early mornings, pre-workout boosts, moments when you're just feeling run down, or even after a late night or long flights. I absolutely love how convenient Liquid IV is. The packaging makes it easy to bring with me wherever I go. And let me tell you, it's become a vital daily part of my routine. The flavors, let me tell you something, they're incredible. From refreshing sea berry and strawberry lemonade to classics like lemon lime and watermelon, there's a flavor for every preference. It's like a burst of hydration with a hint of deliciousness. Picture this. 1 stick of Liquid IV mixed in 16 ounces of water, hydrating you 2 times faster and more efficient than water alone. And with 12 mouth-watering and flavors, you'll never get bored with your hydration routine. Plus, Liquid IV is packed with 5 essential vitamins: B3, B5, B6, B12, and of course, vitamin C. It's also made with premium ingredients, non-GMO, free of gluten, dairy, and soy. This is hydration at its finest. But it doesn't stop there. Liquid IV believes that access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. That's why they partner with leading organizations, finding innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. It's incredible to know that Liquid IV has already donated over 39 million servings in 50 plus countries around the world. They truly walk the talk. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code UNSOLICITED at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code UNSOLICITED at liquidiv.com. Remember, folks, taking care of ourselves should always be a priority. So why wait? Head over to liquidiv.com, pick your favorite flavors, and experience hydration like never before. Stay refreshed, stay hydrated, and keep rocking those unsolicited perspectives. Hello, and I'm here with Megan Meertens. I'm not going to lie to you guys out there. This is a long-term friend of mine. I've known her since college. She knew me back when. She's traveled all over. She's lived in several states, several countries, has 3 beautiful children, a special educator, and after begging and pleading for months, 6 months total, to get her on the show to tell me about her and to interview her about her incredible life and her journey since college. She finally agreed, and she's on now. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, yeah, I've only been trying to do this since like November.
Well, in all honesty, my life has been kind of falling apart. So
I mean, we don't need to put
I'm
all your
back.
business
I'm
out
back.
there.
I'm
We don't
back to
need.
the land of the living.
Yeah. We don't need to put all your business out there. The people out there don't need to know that. We're gonna talk about some other stuff, but not that. Now I'm gonna be getting DMs and emails. So what's going on in Megan's life? None of your damn business. That's what. That's what. This is my friend for over 20 years. And we're gonna talk about good stuff. But the first thing that I want to get into is, even though I've known you for a long time, I don't know much about your background. So can you tell us a little bit, share a little bit about your background, your upbringing? I know that you're from Maryland, that Montgomery County area. Uh, what growing up in that area and with your family, how did that influencing your parenting and your teaching approach? And did it at all?
I think a little bit. So I was born and raised in Montgomery County. Well, I was born in DC, and I lived in Gaithersburg pretty much my whole life, except for 2 years. My family lived in Ireland. I am the baby of my family, the youngest of five. And my siblings are 8, 10, 12, and 14 years older than me. So very much the baby. But I loved growing up in Gaithersburg, and I think that has kind of had a huge impact on me just as a person. I grew up in a very diverse area, so I think that really, I've always been around a lot of different people. And then as an adult moving, I've traveled the world. I lived for 3 years in the Netherlands with my kids and their father. So I've now lived in 3 countries. I've lived in 4 states. So I think that has I can see people for who they are and kind of meld in, or kind of chameleon in with other people. So I think it's really important to kind of learn about people and realize like everybody has different journeys.
And did that influence you at all with how you parent your children and how you work with the kids that you teach?
I think like with my own kids, like I always have, and I know this will come up. My kids are multiracial, so I am white. Their father is uh, Black and Indian, and he's actually Guyanese. So they're first generation Americans on their dad's side because he wasn't born in this country.
I didn't even know
Uh,
that.
so like he immigrated here when he was 8. So I've really always told them, and my one of my children is very white presenting. Everyone, if you're white, if you're not white, most people know she's not all white. But I think I've always told them they are all lighter, and I've always kind of talked with them about like our job as global citizens is to like reach across the aisle and always make sure everybody has space at a table. So I really have to, as like a white woman, have had to really learn about race, learn about their experiences, learn about their father's experience. And I think that also plays in my teaching. I teach in a very diverse area, and there are a lot of different understandings of education. And so I really try to like meet my families where they are and really collaborate. I think it's super important that like parents know, or guardians. I try to not say parents, so that I usually say to my kids they're grown-ups at home because we never
Mhm.
know what their life looks like.
All right.
Um, and so just kind of making sure that they know that I am on their side, and the
Hmm.
side that I'm on is their kids' side, and we will always work together. So I think it's super important to like make sure that we're collaborating as much. And I teach my kids that and to speak up. They are really, really vocal at school and everywhere. And we have a lot of really good debates now that they're teens. So I think that that's like my biggest thing is like making sure that we're really like always trying to understand other people's perspective.
A constant conversation I have with my sister about this Gen Z, because they're Gen Z. Your kids are Gen Z.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I don't think there's any generation after Gen Z. I think that they fit into that category. And a lot of things that me and my sister talk about, we give great parenting advice, despite the fact that neither one of us are parents. Um, but we were just talking about it on the last episode about obedience versus respect, and how a lot of parents would, back in our day, our parents would just say, "Do as I say."
Yeah.
And you weren't really able to question that. And it's cool to hear that you keep an open dialogue where your children can express themselves, because I think that's how you teach critical thinking. That's how you teach learning another perspective and digesting that and learning from it. So that's really cool, but knowing you, like I know you from back in the day, I know your kids got a mouth.
Yeah, so it's really fun parenting teens,
Hmm.
especially teens that you've taught their entire life to speak up and speak out because it's humbling. They will tell me when I'm not doing a great job. They will tell me, they will check me when I need to be checked. Like they are very, and it is, you have to, I think when they were younger, I was more like, okay, just do this. Like I was a lot stricter when they were younger.
Hmm.
I was like a little bit neurotic, like you can only take this box of toys out, then they had to be cleaned up. And you need to do this because I told you to do this.
Oh God.
But as they got older, I've actually, as much as I was in control when they were little, I've really enjoyed watching them kind of grow. And I'm going to have a senior in high school next year. So it's this whole like thing that he's going to be on his own. And I want him to start making his own decisions, to start making choices that he would be proud of, like
Hmm.
himself, not proud of because mom thinks he should be doing them,
Right.
but really things that like he needs to learn how to be a good man, right? Like
Hmm.
that was my job, to give him all the skills he needed so that when he leaves me, he's doing the right thing and he's being a good person, a good human. So we talk
Oh,
about a lot.
okay, so that's interesting because I know that was probably the goal of my parents as well, was to make sure that I was a good man once I left their house and went to college. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, Megan has known me since college. And you and I can both honestly say that I had some serious faults coming out of high school and going into college, and actually coming out of college. How do you, when trying to teach your kids this value system that you want them to maintain as they grow older, how do you reconcile with the fact that they might not get it right away? Like it might take them 40 years, for instance, before it finally clicks in their head of the person that they should be. Because that's just evolution and growth.
And I think like, I mean, I'm very upfront. I don't get things right with my kids. There are times I come in and I yell at them or I snap or I'm just like, just do this. Like, I've just told you to do this, just do it. Right. So a lot of that is saying, I'm not always right. I'm
Mm,
in my 40s and I still am trying to be a good parent. And my youngest really, I mean, my oldest really grew up with me. I had him when I was a baby.
yeah, right.
and
Yes.
and so, I am not always a great mom to him. He gets the worst of me very frequently.
Mm,
And so that's a lot of me saying, like, especially now, like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not always right. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing. Like, me going back to them when I snap and say, hey, like, I was just having a really bad day and it wasn't right for me to take it out on you. Or, like, I didn't make all the choices. We know I was a little bit crazy in college. We will keep that off this
yeah,
podcast.
yeah. We're not going to talk about that. We are not going to talk about all the stories from back in the day. Cornerstone. That's all I got to say is Cornerstone Bar and Grill.
So, part of being young is making those choices, but like I try to like just remind my oldest, especially my youngest, I mean, my middle is very like toes the line. My oldest is more like, let me test every boundary there is. And so I'm like, you don't want to go to jail. Like, let's like keep your whatever to like not getting arrested.
Right. But
And
he's
like,
not
I
a
mean,
bad kid. He's not going to get
no,
arrested.
he
Yeah.
he is a really great kid. He is really smart. He's super caring. But I like say to him, he has red hair. He is light skinned and has this red hair, which he actually just chopped off. But I'm always like, everyone is going to see you. You are almost 6'3". You have a very unique look. Anywhere in a crowd, you are going to be spotted. So you always have to kind of just be aware of your surroundings and what you're doing because people will remember you. So
Hmm.
you have to think about those things for your choices. But ultimately, if he's not going to jail, I'm doing something right.
That's the standard. He ain't going to jail. That's all I
I
care
mean,
about.
he is really a great kid. He is a great big brother. He, you know, works super hard. He's a runner and he right now wants to be a child psychiatrist. So I mean, he has goals, and just kind of
Okay.
keeping those goals in mind when your friends are doing silly things, you should just remember like you want to be a doctor.
Yeah, yeah, that's important, and he's going to make bad decisions because we did. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's a good thought process to have. Just don't go to jail. Just don't go to jail.
Like I don't want to call from jail where that's like my standard.
Right. Okay. So you said you lived in the Netherlands. Can you run down obviously the U.S., Netherlands? What was the other country that you lived in?
I lived in Ireland, but I was really little.
Okay.
I went to kindergarten in Ireland.
Okay. Well, that's an experience. And in the different states that you lived in here.
We lived in South Carolina for a really short period of time, Georgia, Louisiana, and then just Maryland.
The South.
Hmm.
Okay. Did any of your travels, speaking more specifically, like living in the Netherlands, because that's where you lived as an adult with your family, and then really living in the South? I mean, South Carolina, Georgia, and Louisiana, that's the South. Um, did any did any of part of these travels shape your parenting? I know you said that being looking at everybody and being inclusive is really, really important. Um, these travels, I'm sure you faced some type of adversities with biracial children, well, not triracial children, multiracial children in the Netherlands and the South. How did you kind of navigate those waters?
So the South, like we were on military bases, so a lot like there were a lot of other families that
Okay.
like looked like my kids or had kind of similar experiences of my kids. So that was when we were in our bubble, that was fine. But when you know, go to the store or go other places, like I would get stopped and asked what my kids were on a regular basis. When my youngest was just a baby, I baby wore. So I had her in a carrier. I mean, she was attached to me till she was probably 5. She just never wanted to leave her mom. So she was just a baby and she looks like more like Latina. Like she's like got straight hair like I do and like tan skin and it's like black. So she looks, so I have her and we're at the doctor and this nurse goes to me like, oh, it's so nice that you hold her like you carry her like her people do. And
What?
I was like, what people? I'm her people.
Right. Like what?
And you know, so it's just like it's, you know, a lot of that kind of thing. Like my kids, both my 2 oldest have red hair. So it was a lot of like, well, where did they get the red hair from? Like, do you dye their hair? What are they? People like will ask a lot of questions. So that was like more the even or like there would be times that like their dad was with them who and they'd be like that can't be your kid because he's dark, like he's dark skinned.
Mhm.
So like they'd be like, that's not your kid. Like, are you sure? Like when I had my son in the hospital, a nurse said to his father, like, are you sure this child is yours?
Wow. And this is where?
This was actually in Maryland.
Oh God.
So I mean, and it is everywhere. Like I've had, like even my daughter in Montgomery County when they were in MCPS schools, one of her teachers said, "Oh, I saw you walking in the neighborhood. You were talking to some man," and she was like, "No, I was walking with my dad." She's like, "No, no, you were talking to some man." And so even in Maryland, you get that, right?
Hmm.
Um, in the Netherlands, we lived in a really kind of a country town in the Netherlands. So there were, besides other military families, there were like no other Black people.
Hmm.
Um, so it was very interesting. Like I remember going to like our first trip to Paris and being like, oh wow, we're like around people again. Like
Hmm.
there's all different types of people. But I didn't think like there was a lot there. Like I didn't think that there were some like most people wouldn't make comments. I think more comments have happened in the US.
Mm.
Um, and my kids actually went to a school that was an international school. So like my daughter's best friend was like from the Czech Republic. My son had all these like friends from, you know, Germany, from Great Britain. They took German every day. So I think that
Mm.
like that aspect of it, that they were learning German daily, they were conversational in German, was something that when we got back here, while I let the German slide, that was something I really, when they started to get to middle school and had to take a language, I said, I don't care what classes you take. it is important to me. Like the state of Maryland is actually not the state. The U.S. has a seal of biliteracy, and there's
Mhm.
different avenues to gain that. One of them is taking the AP exam in whatever that language is and getting a 4 or 5. And so I said to them, like, I don't care whatever other classes you take, except for you pick a language and you stick with it. So that was something I thought was super important because as Americans, we know English. And I
Yeah.
think I think we think that that's a superior language and that other people should learn it because that's what we know. And I think when we're talking about being a global citizen and being like looking across the aisle at other people, even if we're not conversational in that language, having some pieces of that language to be able to talk. So actually, my son just got his AP score, so he is actually considered biliterate in Spanish. So that was like
Okay.
something that was like I think is super amazing, and he actually wants to be a polyglot, so he is on to his next language. He's
Okay. I
actually
don't.
trilingual.
What is a polyglot? I don't know that.
Somewhat, like many languages. So
Oh, okay.
he is fluent now in 3 languages: ASL, Spanish, and English. So I think that kind of piece of my parenting has kind of made him want to be able to converse in everybody in their language, their first language, and not feel like they have to be forced to learn English or speak English to him.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, look at you out here, raising the kids to be a little bit of everything. I like that.
I mean, they are a little bit of everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's funny because my mom tells the story of when we moved from Illinois to Lynchburg, and my mom is, let's pull it delicately, very, very fair skin. But they thought she was white because she's white skinned with blue eyes, straight black hair. And me and my brother and sister at her job, they had a swimming pool, summer campus and everything. And they had never seen her kids. So remember, they think that she's white. So she brings these 3 kids here, and me and my siblings very much look black, even though my sister is light as hell. She very much doesn't look white. And they were like, well, who are these kids? And my mom was like, these are my kids. No, they're not. Did you adopt them? No, I have the scars to show you these are my kids. And it's just funny how we do that as Americans, but in other countries is not like that. From your experiences?
I think it is like that. We just were kind of in like a very insulated area. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's definitely like more racism other areas. Like if you think about the Ukraine when all the bombing started in the Ukraine and like how the white Ukrainians were getting out, but like
Mm.
African immigrants were
Yeah.
not.
They don't want to talk
Um,
about that. They don't want to
right.
bring
So
that up.
yeah, so I think that like you have that experience everywhere. Um, I think we were just very insulated. And there were definitely times like we would be out and like people would be pointing at the kids and my husband at the time and me. So I think like there definitely was, but most of the time people wouldn't come up to us. I think in America people will say something because they're speaking English, whereas in Germany they would just speak in German and we wouldn't know what they were saying.
Wouldn't have, yeah. So they probably being stealth about it. Okay. So let's go back to college. What made you choose education?
My degree is actually not in education.
Okay.
So my degree is actually in family studies, and I was going to be a social worker, and I did my internship, and I was like, I think social workers are amazing. I would never be able to leave my work at work. I
Mm-hmm.
would have lasted maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have that little bit of that with education. I actually did not go into education because almost every one of my older siblings is an educator.
Oh,
And
okay.
they were like, don't do it. Don't do it. Go do something else. Well, I have a sibling was a social worker and then 2 others that were in education. And the 4th is a sign language interpreter who worked in schools. So kind of in education as well.
Yeah.
So they were like, don't do it. Don't do it. And then I took the LSAT and I was thinking about going to law school. But I kind of at that time was dating someone and that wasn't really feasible at that time. So I was like, oh, let me do this program through PG County.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you saw my face, and this is like, yo, you opened the door to a question, but I'm not going to go there. Just, ladies and gentlemen, just because it's my friend, I'm not going to go there. Had it been anybody else, I'd have been like, yo, you opened the door for me to ask a question, but that ain't nobody's business. I'm protecting my friend. But go ahead. So you enter in PG County's program.
Yes. So I did a alternate certification program. And
Mm-hmm.
at that time, it was the first one in special ed, which my dad's younger brother had Down syndrome. So, and
Mm,
he lived with us from middle school on. So I always like had a really super special place in my heart for kids who learned differently.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I went into education, like I knew that's where I wanted to be. Um, so that was, I did this program. I had a baby, stayed at home for 11 years with my babies, and then now I'm back in education. So back doing that.
Wait a minute. Which baby was this?
Malachi. So when I had
So it was your
him,
first.
yeah, I had Malachi. I kept working, and then I went actually back to work the following year. But at that time, like my then husband went back into the military, and I quit mid-year to move to Louisiana. And we were in Louisiana for a couple years. We were back in Maryland for like a year and a half. Then it just like we were moving every 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
after the Netherlands, the kids and I came and stabilized here because our oldest was getting into middle school and we wanted to keep him, stable for his kind of academic growth and just socially as well. So then I just went back to work.
Okay. All right. Well, that's real good. I'm not gonna see. See, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be good.
You don't you
There's
don't
so
have
many.
you don't have to.
Okay. All right. Just to end this segment, why did things with the LSTAT not work out? You're at the job that you're doing now, what you're supposed to be doing. But you said that you was going to be taking LSTATs and that you were studying for it.
I don't ever study for tests. I took the LSATs and I actually did really, really well on them. I just I was engaged and
Wait a minute.
oh
Wait a
no,
minute. Wait, oh, hold on. Did I not know this?
probably not. I dated him for a lot of years, like 6 years.
No, this isn't the same guy from college, is it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not okay. I'm sorry. I just remember there always being the guy. I'd never met him. And look, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've known her for a long time. We were homies. Like you came to my house, I was at your
Yeah.
house. Like my family knows who you are. So it's like I knew you and I never met this dude. Okay. All right.
Well, he was also in the military. So he was actually stationed in Georgia for most of the time I was in college. So
On that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get to the next segment. I'm just going to end that one right here. Quit being born with your lazy ass, just eating dinner and watching TV every night. We're going to change it up tonight. Next time, pull out a Wongo puzzle and enjoy the conversation and fun that happens when people puzzle together. Wongo is a perfect balance of good challenge without being so hard you stop talking to each other and leave your family forever. I know I'm close to that almost every time me and my family get together. Trust me, once you try Wongo, you'll never go back to that boring, old-ass jigsaw puzzle. They are 100% wooden pieces, so they'll last forever. Each piece is hand-drawn, so no two pieces are the same, and you'll discover some fun whimsy pieces as you work through it. They come in a custom wooden box, which is perfect for storage and gifting. With stunning designs and unique shape, Wongo puzzles are a cut above the rest. I love doing the snow globe puzzle myself. It was great to pull out a puzzle and be done in a night and not have to worry about it being on the table for a week. Well, not on the table, on the floor. And definitely not for a week because crypto would mess it up. So what are you waiting for? Go to wongopuzzles.com and pick your puzzle today. And be sure to use the promo code Unsolicited to get 10% off your order. This is the most fun you've had with a puzzle, guaranteed, or your money back. Go to wongopuzzles.com and use code Unsolicited to get 10% off your order and get puzzling right now. All right, we're back, and oh my goodness, if I could If y'all knew what the hell we was talking about during the segment break, good God. But y'all, this isn't the after hours episode. We getting back to talking about the kids, the babies. All right. So you moved around so much. The kids are multiracial. We've already talked about how the environment was. How did they adapt to just moving so much, just being in so many different environments? Did you see them having any issues with it? Did they have any issues with it? Did issues develop later because of the constant moving?
So at the beginning, like that's all they knew, right? That was Malachi. We moved to Louisiana when he was 9 months old. Liliana was born in Louisiana. We moved back to Maryland before she was even a year old. And I mean, we moved so much. Malachi at this point has been in, I think, 6, 7 schools. And so I think at the beginning, like it was fine. Like they were used to it. Their friends would leave. They'd make a really good friend. A year later, that friend would move. So that was something that was um, normal for them. And I think the thing that really did help is I was always there. I
Mm,
was the consistent in their life. And we always, like, they all have a stuffed animal. That stuffed animal, like, never left their sight. They
mm.
still, like, my 17-year-old who will kill me when he hears this, he still has that lion on his bed. Like, I mean, it is, but I joke with him, like, I knew football players in college who had, like, their blankets with them from when they were little. So he's all good too. So so like they always had that traveled with us. That was their security, and I was there. Like I was always the one, like, because I wasn't working, I was at everything. I did everything, so that was consistent. And I think that we became a really close unit as a family.
Mm,
I am super big on family traditions. So there is probably, you name something, some kind of time you can celebrate, there's probably a tradition in my family for it. And so
mm,
for me, that was always super important that like my kids had that consistency. And then now though, like as they're older, we live in an area, like we're in Frederick County now. We live in an area people don't leave. And so my
mm,
kids now as teenagers are like, yeah, like my son's girlfriend like has had her same friend since she was in kindergarten. He's like, isn't that so weird? Like that you could have friends from kindergarten, like that. I've never known anyone longer than like 6 years. So I think now, like when they see that, and I think with just like even moving here, we moved here now 2 years ago, just kind of trying to get in friend groups. Like it was a little bit more difficult, but they have found in this area some of the best friends they've ever had in their lives. They we were in Montgomery County and they just still had a really hard time like making connections because they had a really different lived experience. Like
mhm.
they have just had a very different upbringing than the kids that were there, but and they kind of had to figure out how to like not be army brats anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
how do I get into this? But now they just have really amazing friends. They have, some, and so that I think it they've gotten those friends, but now they're going to leave them. Like my son still, he's only going to have been at that school for 3 years because he did his freshman year in Montgomery County. So
Mm,
he still will only be 3 years and then go. But I'm like, well, you'll be able to always come home. Like these people are people you'll be able to see on Christmas breaks and summers and things
right.
like that. So I think now they notice it, but they definitely like when we moved here, they were like, we don't ever want to move again. Like we want to be, 40 years old and coming back to this house. Like we want to be bringing our kids to this house.
Mm.
So,
So you
so
stuck with
that
that
is,
house.
well, let's hope.
Yeah.
So like that is definitely like something now that they like really see value in that they didn't before.
When
And I
you
think it's
can,
kind of
no, go ahead.
I said I think it's kind of shaped too. Like my son especially used to always be like, "Oh, I'm going to go like away for college," and now he's like, "Yeah, mom, I don't really want to be more than a couple hours from you." Like it's now been like, okay, now I kind of feel like I want to be a little bit more stabilized.
Hmm. Well, I mean, you can relate to like his girlfriend because you lived in the same area and had some of those same friends from elementary, middle school, and high school. I mean, they may have changed, but like my two closest guy friends because you went to high school with one of them, and they known each other since they were 8 years old. I entered the picture
Yeah.
when we were all 16. So, but they literally know each other since they were in elementary school, and that's kind of the area. Now they're back in the area where they grew up. Just for a rundown for people that are overseas, because there are people actually in the Netherlands that actually listen to the show. Montgomery County is a county outside of DC. It's a DC suburb. I still say that Montgomery County is part of the DMV. The DMV
It
is
is.
not your motor vehicle association. It's the district, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So Northern Virginia, where I live, is also considered part of the DMV because I am literally 5 miles from the harbor. And Montgomery County is a suburb. Now, Frederick, that's the country.
It used to be the country. Like, I mean,
Oh,
growing up, we called it Fredneck. Like, I felt like every time we would drive there, like, it was this faraway place. But I have to say, like, now they're doing so much building. It is like the fastest growing county in the state. We were the only, their schools were the only ones that had increases in enrollment in like the past couple of years. So it's definitely like you still have the country areas. And like, I think especially like where we live, my kids' school pulls in some of those country areas. So you definitely have like a lot of interesting views that my kids deal with at school. Like,
you could just say it. You could just say this is unsolicited perspectives. We deal with the real raw here.
I mean,
And
you know,
your daughter listens to the show, so she knows we deal in real.
yeah,
Go ahead and say what you want to say.
like, I mean, last year, no, yeah, last school year, like, there's apparently this pretend whipping app. Like, it sounds like a whip. And they were like doing it towards black classmates. Like,
Mm, mm,
you
mm, mm,
know,
mm.
like there's a lot of racism
Somebody
and
didn't get their ass whooped?
homophobia.
Didn't nobody get
There,
their ass whooped?
no, surprisingly, no one got that happen. But like and so there's definitely like you pull in some of those country, but you also have like just a lot of like my daughter took AP US history and they had like a sheet that they were all studying on for the AP exam. So they're like all writing different answers. And like she got into an argument because somebody put like Trump is still the president, like erase Joe Biden. And she like literally wrote on it, this is not like commented on it. This is not for your delusions. This is about facts. So
That's your
like,
daughter. Yeah.
yes. Oh, she is the most calm, but she's not in that area. She's so calm. Like,
Mm.
so that area is not like me. I am fiery. My son is fiery. She will meticulously pick you apart, and do it so sweetly that everyone thinks she's amazing, which she is, but she just, and I think that moving here was a huge shock for them
Mm.
because when we lived in Clarksburg, yes, there were definitely like that there were still those things, but you had those nice white people.
Is Clarksburg considered Montgomery County?
Clarksburg is Montgomery County.
It didn't used to be.
Okay, it's always been Montgomery County. It
I
just
don't know
always
about
felt
that.
like it was just the boonies when we grew up.
Yeah,
There was just farmland there when we were growing up.
yes, because that's further north than my parents' old house in Germantown, which we thought we was like, oh, we in the country. Like
Yes,
we're in the
well,
country.
all that area was the country when
It
we were in
was.
high school. But I think like really like you had those nice white people. Like I'm liberal. You have those white women that say they're liberal but vote for Trump. Like outwardly they get along, whereas in Frederick you don't have that so much. You definitely have pockets of people that are like, nope, I've been in Frederick my whole life. My grandparents have been in Frederick our whole lives. We are diehard and we don't like your kind. And
Okay.
they're more willing to say it. And my kind of kids experience in the schools has been most of the teachers kind of don't care. There's no kind of like my youngest got called a monkey at school. And I emailed the principal. I wanted to sit down with her, and it was just kind of like she brought in like 5 girls, and it kind of was like, oh, well, you just kind of looked like one, so we called you one. But there was no discussion of like, that's not acceptable to call someone that, especially someone who is Black. Like, that is not okay. And so, like, nobody knew how to deal with that. So, like, the educators don't know how to have those conversations and aren't comfortable having those conversations. So it just kind of just like goes by the wayside.
When you get rid of diversity and inclusion, seminars to help teachers and educators, this is what you get: this inability to uh, moderate conversations between young people who are just plain ignorant, because that's all it is. These kids are ignorant. They don't know anything. They don't have any true life experiences yet. They just know what, not to say that kids aren't, their kids nowadays are smarter than we were, despite the fact what the boomer generation wants to say. They right, like I have a boomer client, and she works for NASA, and she's just like, this young generation isn't smart. And I was like, yeah, they do some dumb stuff. However, they can program stuff at a much younger age than engineers were doing in the 80s, right? Like, that type of technology advancement, they gain it quicker. So in that regard, they're smarter. So I don't want to disregard and say that they aren't cultured and enlightened and more aware than what we are, but their life experiences is still kind of a bubble as
Yeah,
opposed to the real world.
and I think, right, your parents shape your view.
Yes.
And I think especially like when we're talking about white parents, like, white people aren't comfortable talking about race. We've never had to be. Like, we can live in a world where race never impacts us. I don't have to think about it, so I don't need to talk about it. Like, and I think that's very, like, almost every day we're talking about race at my house. Like, we're reading books, we're like having these very in-depth conversations, we're talking about things that like they've heard at school, but an average white family doesn't need to do that,
Well,
because race will never impact their life.
Because race impacts your life on a day-to-day
Yes.
basis, because you're the mother of multiracial children and they're multiracial. So yeah, you have to have those conversations.
And I think
Whereas,
that
yeah.
and I think that that has really, like, as an educator, like, made me, like, a mom of multiracial kids has made me an even more anti-racist educator. I
Mm,
always want to be the person that I wish was my kid's teacher. So when I think a story is going to be damaging, like, if we're going to read a fairy tale and it's about Snow White and her skin is so beautiful because she's so white, like, that's not appropriate. Like, we're not going to have this, because what is that sending? What message is that sending to everyone whose skin is not super white? And I
mm.
wouldn't want that read in my kids' classroom, because I wouldn't want them to ever feel less than. I wouldn't ever want another parent's child to feel less than. And so I think for me, like, I'm fiery. I think that that's been an area where I've had to grow. Like, I get really annoyed. Like, why don't you just get it? Like, if I say this to you, why don't you just listen to me, to other educators? And that's not helpful, right? If I'm going like, all speed ahead, that's not going to get anybody to stop and think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've really had to be, like, very intentional with my conversations at work, or my conversations with my kids' teachers. I am the first one that will get on a email and be like, this is completely inappropriate. Why did you just give my kid assignment where she had to talk about the benefits of slavery? There are no benefits. Like,
Who?
literally none. We
Oh,
have enslaved people. That is not an appropriate thing. We're not defending what our forefathers did because it was completely inappropriate.
okay. Hold on.
And
Hold on. You're about to get fiery. Now, are you just pulling that because of the situation that happened last week in Florida, or was your daughter actually given an assignment like that?
my daughter was actually given an assignment where it was to say, like, basically, we're the founders of the U.S. Like, we're okay with having slavery and, like, enslaving people, why it was okay, and then, like, why it wasn't okay. And I'm like,
Okay,
it's
so to give
never
her the
okay.
comparison and contrast. Okay, well,
Yeah, but still not
uh,
okay.
no, it's not okay. I'm not. Never mind. I don't want. I know that people watch this episode. They'll click what I'm about to say next and be like, "Oh, Bruce was for slavery." No, no. I'll just say economists will find a reason why it was beneficial, but it was not beneficial. You know what? You could just pay people You can pay people to do the work. You know, that could be a thing as
Yeah,
well.
it was
Instead of
it was beneficial for white enslavers.
right, yeah, it was beneficial for their ass. They got rich. They got rich off of
Yes.
it. You already. I could tell that you actually read the questions, ladies and gentlemen. Before I interview anybody, I actually send them the questions ahead of time, just so they have an idea of what we're going to speak about. I'm giving y'all a peek behind the curtain. It is clear that Megan has, I don't know, really studied the question lineup, because you answered the question that I was about to ask next without me actually asking it, which is discombobulating me, and I don't know where I want to go next. But I think this is where I'm going to go next. With all the travel and all the work that you do and that you've done with the kids, how do you balance work and family?
My kids always come first. There
Mm,
is no balance. I love my students at school. And they get the best of me for the time I'm there and the best of me when I need to prep at home. But ultimately, my kids, like, I find like my kids are the ones who are going to remember if I'm there or not.
yeah, that's true.
They are going to be the ones that know if I'm at my son's track meet. Like, and I've been super lucky. It's important to me to work for principals who value that. Like, my principal now, anything. If I'm like, oh, I need to, I'll be 30 minutes late. I got to take my kid here. No problem. Like, I got you. Like, your kids are the most important people to you. So that for me is what's important.
Hmm.
And I have very little time with my kids. So they work as a job, a job I do love. But my kids are my heart. They are my purpose on earth. I will forever say being a mom was the only thing I've ever wanted to be when I grew up.
Oh,
Um, and it's true. I tell
oh,
my kids that all the time. So, I mean, hard. The past 2 years, I've worked two jobs, and I've been in grad school. And the worst part of it is I would not sit and eat dinner with my kids. So that's
mm,
something that this year I can't do. I love that time. That's when I get to hear about their day and whatever else they want to talk about. And so it's really making sure that they have time with me, because someday soon they're not going to be here. They're going to be out living their lives like they should be.
someday, real soon. Real soon. Your
Yes.
oldest is entering in his senior year. He's got one more year left under mama, and then he's going to
Uh,
go off to school. And you know how it is when we go off to school. We don't really want to come back home.
because he loves his mom. He
Okay.
he he is he he worries about his mom. He worries about his sisters. He likes to take care of us all, so he'll come home.
Okay. I feel like you already did this, but I'm looking for something real specific. Can you share a heartwarming or inspiring moment from not only your teaching career, but also your journey as a mother?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Um, Honestly, I think so. I'm not one of these parents that are like, my kid is my friend. Like, I'm the mom. I don't need to be
Mhm.
your friend.
Right.
Um, but yesterday my oldest was like talking about his Insta stories, his close friend. And he was saying to his sister, like, isn't mom on your close friend? She's on my close friends. Like, and just having like kids who really feel that they can trust me and talk to me, that I am still the parent and I'm gonna, get in on you if you're not doing what you should be doing. But having kids that really can talk with me, that's always been something as a mom I've wanted. And I
Mm,
always try to be that same way with my students. So like when I have a student that's like, oh, like, you're the only person I can talk to, like, sure, I want them to have a lot of people to talk to. I think it's important kids have someone they can talk to, but that's important. Or when I have a family that says like, I wasn't really sure of you at the beginning of the year, but like, I realize,
I'm sorry. That's just funny
you
to
know,
me.
you know,
I
I,
wasn't sure about your ass at the beginning of the year, but you all right. You good people.
I mean, and sometimes like I come across like I have a resting bitch face. Like, I come across like this is it. But I love to be able to develop those relationships with families and have them being like, or have a have a relationship with a family who I have to sometimes be the first person that told them their child isn't learning at a typical rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so those times when I have a parent say to me, like, you made this journey okay, like, that's important to me, right? Because I always try to think of, like, how would I feel on the other side of this table? And like, my son just got diagnosed with ADHD. Like, I missed it with my own kid.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've missed it with myself too, but just like those times are when I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's always all about the kids. And that for me is my purpose. Like, I want our kids to grow up and be amazing people. And so,
That was a great answer to a question I did not ask. I asked for a specific moment.
a
You gave me
specific,
a really generalized. It was a great answer. It was a
I
great
can't,
answer, but it was
do you
really
know,
generalized.
but this is the thing. I don't know if I have like a very specific moment because they
That could have
happen
been
all the
it with the.
time.
That could have been it. The moment about teaching could have been it where the parent was like, "I don't know about your ass at the beginning of the year, but you know what? You all right." Like that's a moment right there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. Like, that just, I mean, things happen all the time.
Okay, there isn't anything that okay, that's cool because I guess that was a moment that he's like that you're on his closest friends list, and he's like your mom's not on your closest friends because my mom's not on my closest friends list. There's a lot of things I'm like you know my Instagram story. There's a lot of stuff I don't want my mom to see on there,
Yeah,
and
she's
I'm
probably
grown.
better not being on there.
Yeah, no, and I'm grown, and I don't want my mama to understand that stuff. But okay, so
I
those are the
I'm not on his closest snap friend story. Let's just be real
oh
honest. The younger
yeah.
generation, but I mean, it really is. Or when they just say like, you're always there. Like,
Mm,
I the probably the most recent, like, and as a parent, right, I've had 17 years of amazing memories with my kids, like this
mm.
heartwarming thing. I think the most recent one, man, my girls probably were like, you are really your son's biggest hype man. My son set a goal at the end for the beginning of indoor season for outdoor season to go a sub 2 minute 800 meters. For anyone that knows running, that's a pretty great standard. If you go
Mhm,
sub 2 minutes, you're okay.
mhm.
He ended up getting hurt the first meet of outdoor and was out for almost the whole season, came back for counties, and then regions went sub 2.
Hmm,
So that was
mm.
probably like, and just like him looking at me, and like, that was this thing that like I knew how hard he was going to be working, and I've been like with him. So that, like, but it's all these little things. Or when I hear like my daughter get her, like, just have her voice be like, oh yeah, I had to tell this person. Or like, I set up this in middle school. She decided to set up a club because there wasn't a club, kind of a diverse club for people. So she's like, oh, I'm going to sit with the principal and do that. So those are the big moments for me, is when I see my kids getting their voice or setting goals and accomplishing them.
Okay. All right. That's a the first answer was good. That's a better answer. Like okay. All right. Uh that's all the questions I had. How'd you think this experience for you went? It's only been 6 months of finally getting you on here, but I finally did. And for somebody that's
I'm
my friend and has known me for a long time that supports the show, I thought that you would have been on here sooner. But like you said earlier, life,
it
life.
yeah, I might have used life a little bit as a crutch. I was a little bit nervous. I'm an extreme introvert, and I don't like talking in front of people or to people. So
Yeah, but these situations, I tell all the guests, and you listen to the show. They're conversations, they're interviews, but they're conversations. It's just like back in the day where we were either at each other's house or we were in Cornerstone chit chatting. It's the exact same. It just the language has been toned down. We ain't cussing as much on here. That's all.
that right there is a real stretch for me.
Yeah, I know you already said the B word, and I'm debating whether or not I'm going to cut it if I'm going to keep it in. I'm
I was
debating whether.
sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So, as a one parting message to people that I have a lot of people who are young parents, people that are expecting, what would be a bit of advice that you would give for those people as their children get older and the children start to enter in teenage years and just the beginning years of parenting? What advice would you give to parents?
Beginning years, if you survive, you've made it. I mean, really, like, and I think there's a saying, right, that says, when you have a baby, everyone has an opinion, right? Everybody can tell you how to take care of a baby. When you get to be a teen parent, we just look at each other and go, good luck to you.
Mm.
And so I think, like, when you have a baby, right, if you can't do anything wrong, right? If you're, however you feed them, you're feeding them. However you love them and nurture them, you're loving and nurturing them. As long as you're doing those things, you're okay with the baby. When you have a teen, it's different. And I think a lot of times, like, we want to control our teens.
Mm.
We really, like, we've had so much control when they're little that we want to still hold on to that control. My best advice is to start to let go. Is
Mm.
as often as they're going to make mistakes, they're going to make stupid decisions. They're going to do things that you're going to go like, why are they doing this? But you have to let them go, because for me, I always think, like, I want them to make bad decisions while they're still in a controlled environment.
That's, yeah. Okay.
Because when they get older, they're going to make bad decisions. And I want them to think a little bit more before they start to make those decisions for themselves, because I can't be there with them.
Mm.
And I think just also, like, keeping that communication open, right? Like, I can get mad at my son. I can tell him, or my daughter, and tell them they're not making good choices. They did something that was, like, completely ridiculous. They're sneaking out the house and I'm going to knock them out, whatever. Like, but ultimately, like, I need to have that conversation about why. And so my son is very much like, don't just tell me no, don't just tell me I can't do this, have a conversation. And I think that part is hard. We still want to control and we want to be the parent. And we can be the parent while having conversations with our kids, and especially as they get older, like letting them have some control. They need to have control of their life. So that's my biggest for teens, but also just good luck.
So on that note, I want to thank you. Thank you for finally coming on the show. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for your friendship for over 20 years, and we still running. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Although I should have said I wanted your sister to do it, since I really want her to be my best friend.
Everybody is in love with my sister. Everybody, I'm so glad that I am just secure in who I am, because the name of the show is Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. But
Oh,
damn it if
I love
everybody,
you.
yeah, I know, but damn it if everybody want to put Jay Andrea on there. She will quickly tell everybody she's a weekly guest, even though she's a co-host. That's what she doesn't want to admit. She's a co-host. But yes, she's pretty cool. But thank you for the compliment. I guess there was a compliment for me in there as well. I guess. But thank you.
No, I love you. I just had to give you a little bit.
Yeah, you did. You did. And good thing that, I'm tough and my feelings are hurt. But I love you too. Once again, I want to thank Megan for coming on the show. A little insight to our banter. Like I said, she's one of my closest friends. I've known her since college. I've known her for over 20 years. She knows about all my dirt in college, all of it. We ain't getting on that about this on this episode. We didn't talk about that, nor where y'all gonna get the information on her dirt. That's just not what we're doing here. But once again, I want to thank her for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, we have a website, unsolicitedperspectives.com. That gives you all the information about our podcast. You can find all our audio and all of our video episodes on there, where you can find them on your phones. You can leave a review on there. Once again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have some YouTube exclusive television episodes with our rapid reflections. Patreon. There's over 40 episodes on our Patreon page for Talking Straight-ish and After Hours Uncensored with my sister. So if y'all love the episodes with my sister on the Sibling Happy Hour, the After Hours Uncensored Those are episodes with my sister that are exclusively to the Patreon page. Uncensored, real, unfiltered, raw. Join it. Also, our store will be going live on August the 1st, where you could get merch. It'll just be t-shirts in the beginning, but we'll build out more merch as I design more and more stuff. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment, leave reviews on the websites or on YouTube or wherever you get the audio podcast. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Thank you for listening to Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and donate. Donations help us keep giving you this free content each and every week. Until next time, Audi 5000. Peace.